Okay, so welcome to EGO 501. This is a discussion of assignment number 1 with section 1. It's done on Saturday, November 27, 2021. So before we start, let me share the screen and then we can discuss assignment number 2. Acha. So this is the assignment number 2. This one is the same as assignment number 1. We're distributing it today, this slide, and submission is Friday 6 p.m. December 3. Acha. Submission as usual, preferably by Google Classroom. Classroom area I won't forget. Submission format, Word or Author PDF, whichever is convenient for you. And please make sure you write your name, ID in the box. Because some of you in this section and also the other section, নামটা লিখে নাই বক্সের মধ্যে। আচ্ছা, your script shall be checked for plagiarism by Turnitin, but I don't think that will be a problem for you guys because both the sections last assignment you wrote in your own words and the similarity index was extremely low for everybody. Acha, in groups each section will be এটা the পরে। Acha, please try to write in your own words and these are common things. Second হচ্ছে your file name exactly this will be assignment number 2, sorry. I will take for this again. So if you're from section 1, this is for you. For section 2, the bottom one, late submission shall be noted but will not be considered favorably. Why? As before, আমরা minimum 3টা assignment নেব and we'll calculate best 3 or 4 or best 3 or 5. Actually, each candidate is given 3 days time or 4 days time. This should be good enough in the local night. Achha, now this is the question. There is divided into 2 parts. Part 1, identify 2 factors that give a firm market power under monopolistic competition. Part 2, how do these factors interact? The question here of it. Okay, explain with a relevant case study in the context of Bangladesh or your home country if you are not from Bangladesh. Achha, now let me. So first of all, the first part of the problem says that identify 2 factors under a particular market structure monopolistic competition that gives a firm some kind of market power. So what is the key words here? Market power. So market power bolte amra ki বুঝাই? We can define market power as being able to tweak the price a little bit. That means you can increase the price and get away by doing it. 2, you can also rely on a customer base as market power. In the previous week, we discussed monopolistic competition in detail. Over there, আমরা একটা উদাহরণ দিয়েছিলাম যে the tea stalls in front of your undergrad university. If there were 5 tea stalls, each tea stall had their bona fide customers. That gave them market power. How? They knew that there is a certain number of customers whose demand they can always fulfill. That will give them a certain amount of revenue or profits, whatever. So the first thing is, what are the factors that give market power? For a firm under monopolistic competition, you have to identify 2. Second, how do these 2 particular factors that you have identified interact in the context of an example that you want to discuss, which is relevant to Bangladesh? By relevant, we mean it may not be a corporate example. It doesn't have to be extremely big. They're discussing Grameenphone and Airtel or Robi. It can be a simple example that you find in your Mudir Dokan, in your neighborhood. Okay, so now we can you see the slides now?
Yes, sir.
Okay, so now let's get back to the discussion. Part 1. Number 1, how is monopolistic competition defined? Number 2, what factors lead to market power under this market? The basic characteristic or basic feature of monopolistic competition is product differentiation. This product differentiation in different ways gives the firms a certain kind of market power under this market structure. What is product differentiation? Product differentiation means the same commodity is different in the eyes of two different customers. Therefore, I myself will have a personal inkling, a personal bias towards one type of product over another. Once the seller knows this, the seller knows that he has some kind of market power. That means he can attract me. Whether that is by, whether he can do that by tweaking the price, whether he can do that by some other measure is that comes later. Now, when we talk about product differentiation has a degree. Two commodities can be identical to each other, but they may be offered in two different contexts. For example, a bottle of Coca-Cola may cost, say, 20 taka per bottle in a superstore. But in your neighborhood shop, it could be increased by 2 taka. Is that possible? A bottle of Coca-Cola is 20 taka in a super shop, which is the standard price throughout the whole Bangladesh. But that same bottle of Coca-Cola, is it possible that it can be sold at 2 taka more in your local neighborhood মুদির দোকান?
Yes, sir. Probably না, কারণ ওইখানে তো লেখা থাকে, বোতলে লেখা থাকে যে সর্বোচ্চ খুচরা মূল্য 20 টাকা এরকম লেখা থাকে।
Sugar or say potatoes or some other things, that they are available at a cheaper price in the super shop. That identical potato or sugar or whatever will be available a little bit more in your mudir dokan. Why? Because the mudir dokan knows very well that because of its geographical advantage plus the convenience he can give to his customers, it is the customer is the buyer will see two different things in two different lights under two different contexts. So that's why, because of this product differentiation, the potato that you need at 10 o'clock or 11 o'clock at night is much more dearer than the potato that would have been sold in a supermarket. So the first thing is, as we have discussed many times in the context of monopolistic competition, that what is the degree of differentiation? এটা হতে পারে একেবারেই identical, but they're sold in two different contexts, or it could be that we are selling toothpastes. Toothpastes are more or less the same, but some toothpastes are specialized toothpastes. Mouthwash, you can think about mouthwash. Mouthwash you can buy from Square Pharmaceuticals. You can also buy Listerine mouthwash. Now, isn't Listerine a better quality compared to the Square or Star?
Yes, sir.
Okay, so the moment you somebody has said yes, that means in the eyes of that person, Orostar and Listerine mouthwash are two different items. Although they're the same thing, the ingredient might be the same. The same with hand sanitizer. Two different sanitizers of two different companies will be different in the eyes of the consumer. So how, what is the degree of differentiation? The more and more wide the degree of differentiation, the more and more qualitative difference between the two commodities. And then the more and more price somebody will be willing to offer. So the first thing we want to see is that product differentiation defines monopolistic competition, but in your particular case, what is the degree of differentiation? If the degree is cosmetic like blue soap and white soap, then the difference is mild. But if the difference is real, for example, Orostar, which is a mouthwash of Square Pharmaceuticals, and Listerine, which is of an American company, then the difference is real. or high? Okay. Oh, এটা তো আমরা করছি। আচ্ছা, over time, now let's look at it from the point of view of the soap company. Over time, soap companies know which color soap sells more. For example, do blue soaps sell more? Do white soaps sell more? তাই না? Now, if you don't get a blue soap, you will buy a white soap. Will you spend more money for the white soap? Oh, sorry, for the blue soap because you like it more? Or will you be willing to pay the same price? দুইটা সোপ, একটা ব্লু সোপ, একটা হোয়াইট সোপ। লাক্স সাবান, একটা নীল সাবান, একটা সাদা সাবান। If you your preference is for blue, if you don't get blue, will you be willing to offer a lower price for white?
Yeah, yeah,
You
no,
won't.
sir.
Normally you won't. But the soap companies know very well that some people have a preference towards blue soaps, some people have a preference toward white soaps. So over time, the soap companies know very well that I have a certain demand for blue soaps. This is the certain demand for white soaps. So what the first, soap companies will do, once they have this data, they will access their market power. How? They will sell blue soaps more in a place where blue soaps sell more. First, blue
Sir,
soaps sell more in Gulshan, less in Puran Dhaka. Kotha kotha. ঠিক আছে? So yes, somebody was saying something.
স্যার এটা নিডের উপর নির্ভর করে না স্যার। ধরেন স্যার আমার সোপটা খুব ইম্পর্টেন্ট, মানে এখন খুব দরকার স্যার,
Hmm.
ওটা তো নিডের উপরও নির্ভর করে যে আমি যেটা প্রিফারেন্স।
If you can make a farm, if you can make a case study in such a way that the need is extremely important right now, and that's exactly when you're going to sell the item, তাহলে কিন্তু you can identify a market power, তাই না? I'll একটু পরে I'm coming to that point, ঠিক আছে? But otherwise, if you look at the soap companies, they have a very strong database that blue soaps sell very well in this neighborhood, white soaps sell very well in another neighborhood. So what they do, they channel it out. Okay. Acha. Now to answer your question, the relevant market. We have the person who asked mentioned about needs. For that person, the answer is what is the relevant market. So if you have a geographical advantage, definitely you can charge a little bit more, or you can have enjoy some market power. Are there any other factors? Think other than this geographical advantage that we mentioned many times last week. Next is, in a monopolistically competitive market, we divide the market into two parts. How? We said that there are some big players on one side of the spectrum who probably control 70% of the total sales in the market. At the same time, the remaining 30%, there are lots of outlets, the little outlets. They also have market power, but the amount of market power is very small. So in your case study, which segment of the market are you looking at? Are you going to look at the super shops in a locality? The example that we used many times last week, that there are 4 big super shops in Shatmojid Road, starting from with our Agora at the south, up to then you have in the middle is Unimart, and 27 number okhane you have first of all Mina Bazar, and then you have Shopno. But these are not the only 4 super shops there. There are other grocery shops there. So which segment of the market are you looking at? And in that segment, what are the factors that are giving market power to a particular farm? So that thing you have to identify as well. Now, এটা কি? Fragmented market. Does anybody remember what fragmented market is? Fragmented market is a market where most of the sellers have very little market power. I don't know whether I mentioned it last week in your section or the other section. Think about a village market that's selling fresh vegetables for only 2 hours. Does any one of the sellers have any market share there? They
No,
do.
sir.
They do, but the market share is extremely small. So if
স্যার
you are
প্রাইস কন্ট্রোলের মতন আর কি স্যার, ওই প্রাইস কন্ট্রোলের মতন।
not like Karan Bazaar, ঠিক আছে? But
স্যার
they do have market some kind of market power like the tea stalls in your undergrad university. This person is coming every time, and for some reason you like Mr. X and his vegetables. যে কারণেই হোক। So Mr. X has a certain clientele over whom he can exercise some market power, or he knows for certainty that this is where I can make my sales or the bulk of my sales. So if you are looking at a fragmented market, how do we define a fragmented market? We define a fragmented market by the notion that most of the sellers, there are many sellers, none of the sellers has any kind of market power. So their total sales is very little, but each person is different from another person, just like the tea stalls in front of your undergrad university. Each person is selling to the same people over time. So what happens? They develop some kind of relationship, which in the corporate world we call as brand loyalty. So the next thing that you want to see is uh, here it is. Huh? If you're looking at a concentrated market, that means you're looking at the top spectrum, or whether you're looking at the bottom spectrum where farms are fragmented. আচ্ছা, এই দুটা এটা হচ্ছে how who mentioned the concept of need? Somebody mentioned, right?
ইয়েস স্যার আমি।
আচ্ছা, you did. So coming back to your point of needs, substitutes and complements, how easily or difficult are they available in your particular model? If they are easily available, then people can switch to an alternative very easily. If that's the case, you have little market power. If they are not very easily available in a particular relevant market context, then that firm will definitely enjoy some kind of market power. So how easy or difficult are substitutes or complements available? The degree easy or difficult will influence your market power. Finally, brand loyalty. Now, brand loyalty, when we look at it from a corporate point of view, has one kind of connotation, has one kind of expression. Brand loyalty can be explained with many dimensions in the context of the particular example that you're discussing. It doesn't have to be your brand loyalty with Apple or Samsung. It can be the brand loyalty with with your local neighborhood মুদির দোকান। ঠিক আছে? So brand loyalty or the tea stall in your undergrad university. So brand loyalty is also one way that firms can exercise some kind of market power. How? Because they know that they have this type of clientele with certainty. আচ্ছা, case study তাহলে আমরা কিভাবে করব? Once you have identified the two factors that give a firm market power under monopolistic competition, then you want to, one, what is the nature of these two factors in your example? So how easy or how difficult? If you're talking about product differentiation, is the product differentiation mild or is it high? If it is mild, how is that influencing your argument? If it is high, how is that influencing your argument? Acha. Next, why is it that your particular firm is doing better than others in the market? Definitely, nowadays, because of high population concentration, each neighborhood মুদির দোকান, each neighborhood has more than one মুদির দোকান usually. দুইটা তিনটা চারটা পাঁচটাও থাকতে পারে। ঠিক আছে? Even some মুদির দোকানে দেখা যায় they are mini supermarkets, তাই না? অনেকের পাড়াতে আছে না যে the মুদির দোকান is quite big that it has become a mini supermarket.
Yes, sir.
Why? Because the population density is very high. Once population density is high, that means that particular mudir dokan knows very well that it can satisfy a certain amount of demand. So that also is an argument that when we are talking about market power, population concentration is one thing that you can think about if you're looking at mudir dokans only. Acha. Now, number three, although the problem categorically mentions that you identify two main factors, you can identify one or two more to make your case study relevant. Shall I explain what does that mean?
Yes, sir.
The question asks you to identify two main factors. Okay. But once you start discussing, you might find that you want to discuss or link it to a third or fourth factor. You can. But you link that as a side note. Is that clear?
Okay, sir.
মানে you identify these are the two main factors. আমি factors গুলো বলে দেই. Number one factor will be product differentiation. And then brand loyalty. Okay, so how you explain these two, in what dimension, in what capacity, that's up to you. But once you explain these two, you might want to add geographical location. You might want to add a particular relevant market, a fragmented market, a concentrated market. ওগুলো করতে পারবা, but those come as side topics. Clear?
Yes, sir.
Okay, lovely. And then we go back to the share screen. Acha. Your case study will be in the context of Bangladesh. I think there's one or two foreign students, so for them, it will be in the context of their home country. Acha, if you have any queries after this discussion that have not been mentioned or addressed, just ask me in the Facebook group, I'll answer. And think the problem is not difficult. The challenge is how do you assimilate your thoughts clearly? So is there, can I stop this particular video and then start today's discussion? Week 8?
Yes, sir.
স্যার সাবমিশনটা কবে স্যার? আমি একটু লেটে জয়েন করেছিলাম তো স্যার, সাবমিশনটা।
Hi. Wait. Submission টা হচ্ছে Friday বোধহয়। এই যে submission by Friday 6 p.m. December 3. Okay?
স্যার আগের মতোই স্যার 2 পেজে শেষ করতে হবে মানে
হ্যাঁ?
বুঝ তো ওই
Sorry?
স্যার ফার্স্ট অ্যাসাইনমেন্টের মতোই স্যার, ওই যে 2 পেজে শেষ করতে হবে স্যার।
Same as just the thing is you have to in the file name you write assign 2 instead of assign 1. Everything is just the same as before, okay?
ওকে স্যার, একদম থিমটা সেম থাকবে।
হ্যাঁ। তাহলে আমি এটা এখন এই রেকর্ডিংটা বন্ধ করি।